Oh boy, do I love it. People love to care about the environment, or actually, they love to claim they care about the environment, but what do you think happens when you ask them to put their money where their mouth is? I love this story so much because I used to do this for a living. That's right, walking around asking people, would you like to give me money to help fight on your behalf for the environment? For those that don't know, I worked for Greenpeace, and an organization called Environment America, sort of. There's like state level ones. So I worked for a couple different state level organizations, and I walked around telling people, if you give me your hard-earned cash, I will, on your behalf, advocate for climate protections, the environment, etc. And I learned very early on that many people just don't care. As much as they like to sit and talk and claim they do, when it comes to how much they're willing to spend to actually protect the environment, the number is actually really small. And then we have this story from BuzzFeed News. Americans would pay a little to save the planet, a poll shows. Data for Progress, a progressive think tank, commissioned neutral polling from YouGov that found Americans are willing to pay to stop carbon emissions, comma, as long as it's not too expensive. And I know this full well. This is from Ben Smith, the actual editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed. He said, this is an excerpt from The Stakes 2020, BuzzFeed News' newsletter about what really matters in the 2020 campaign. We've reached the part of the presidential campaign where Democrats start to get nervous that some of the progressive policies they've promised will be unpopular or unpopularly expensive. Abolishing private healthcare and decriminalizing border crossing top that list. But what about the truly biggest policy item? Remaking the American economy to stop carbon emissions. Data for Progress, a progressive think tank, commissioned neutral polling on that topic from YouGov and came up with an answer that may not satisfy anyone. American consumers will pay to save the planet as long as it's not too expensive. And they actually go on to say it's essentially the cost of a Spotify subscription, and I know that. Before we read into the details and look at the polls, head over to timcast.com/donate in order to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address, but the best thing you can do, share this video. Let's break some echo chambers. Normally, the algorithm suggests this video to people who are likely to, like the subject matter. But what about people who don't pay attention? That's where you come in. Share the video if you think my work is good. It would be greatly appreciated and help me continue doing what I do. Let's read on. BuzzFeed writes, in the survey, shared exclusively with The Stakes 2020, YouGov asked people if they'd back new restrictions on fossil fuel infrastructure like pipelines and tightening rules around drilling. The answer to both questions, yes, but only for the price of a Spotify subscription. These data suggest that, in fact, climate policies remain relatively popular, even with an explicit cost frame. Good job. I really like how they try to at least spin something positive out of this. But what we actually find is that when you ask people if they want to help support the environment or restrict fossil fuels, they all say yes. Well, not all. We get just around 55% in leaning towards supporting that. But what do you think happens then when you ask that same person? That's great. Now I need you to give me $50 a month. They're going to say, yeah, no way. I have no problem claiming I care about the environment, but am I going to actually put money down? No. So here's what we find. Support level for preventing new fossil fuel infrastructure construction at no cost. 42% strongly support, 13% somewhat support, and we only have 27% in opposition. But how about we throw in a bill? $10 a month. Strongly support drops from 42 by 8 points to 34. Somewhat support actually goes up to 18%. So what we see then is that some of these people who move over aren't moving to opposition. They're actually just kind of like, well, I guess $10 a month, oof. But strongly opposed goes up 1 point, which shows someone probably from the somewhat support probably moved to the oppose, and it moves down. But let's jack that price up to $50 a month. Now strongly support drops from 42 to 23%, nearly 20 points down. Strongly oppose goes up to 23%. That says, while there are many people who are willing to spend money if it means doing the right thing, and I've met them, I've fundraised, people handed me cash, they handed me their credit cards, I used to do this. There are a lot of people that want to act like they actually care about the environment, and they don't. It's just something to say because you think it's popular. That's one of the big problems in politics. How many people are voting for policy they don't care about because it makes them feel good? That, to me, is most of it. It's a combination of trying to fit in and supporting your tribe. But when you actually tell people, we're going to take money out of your pocket, that's when things start to turn around and they say, nah, I don't know about that. Now, I'll give you some inside information. 10 years ago, the average amount someone was willing to give to an environmental nonprofit was about, I believe it was $17. That was the average. Some people give a lot. Some people give, the bare minimum, but the average was $17 a month. So this data actually makes sense to me that at $10 a month, a lot of people are still like, okay, that 50 is too much. Well, let's move on. I got a couple updates I want to talk about as we're on the subject of the environment. AOC is breaking up the Green New Deal. Good, because I think it was a really, really bad idea the way they structured everything. At least now, the weird racial, critical race theory stuff they've got in this bill will be removed for the most part. And she's going to tackle like housing and electric vehicles. Listen, man, you want to propose legislation to incentivize electric vehicles? There's a couple things we got to do. When you charge that vehicle, the electricity is produced typically by coal, okay? A lot of people don't understand how electricity is generated, but we use steam to spin, steam pressure spins turbines. Yeah, you get it. Rotating magnetical field. Read it, just Google search it. I'm not going to give you a breakdown on how to generate electricity, or how to generate electrical current, So electric vehicles can make sense so long as the amount of carbon produced to charge that vehicle is less than the amount of the production of the gasoline. Keeping in mind that while the coal still produces carbon, it may be less in the long run. I don't have the data pulled up. That's what you need to research, because producing the gasoline requires refining, shipping, and all that stuff, and it requires gasoline to produce. It requires gasoline and diesel to produce fuel. So it's like a lot more there. So yeah, great. But I'm gonna do something that I want to do something a bit self-critical. See, I've often talked about how much I support Tulsi, and I figured if I'm gonna be critical of these environmentalists, I need to call out myself a little bit. Now, it's a bit unfair. I'm not actually doing anything very self-critical. I'm just gonna highlight some of Tulsi Gabbard's stances that I disagree with to point out nobody's perfect, and there's no politician I think you'll find that's gonna be perfect. There's some good things about what Tulsi said and some bad things. And one of the reasons I like Tulsi is principle. When the Green New Deal came out, she backed away. Bravo. I felt the same way. When AOC was talking about a Green New Deal, I was like, yes, I made a video praising it. I said, this will be great. Invest in new technology that can be better for everybody, right? Then the Green New Deal drops and I'm like, what is that mess? That is not environmentalism. So here's what happened. This is a website called Insight Climate News. I don't know what it is. I think it's like an advocacy group, but they get a breakdown of Tulsi. They say, Gabbard expressed early support for the Green New Deal, but when the resolution was released, she opted not to be a co-sponsor, citing concerns over vagueness of the language. I absolutely agree with that. It was like nothing. There was a lot of weird social justice stuff in it, and it was extremely vague. On her website, Gabbard said she supports the Green New Deal's zero emissions goals, but I do not support leaving the door open to nuclear power unless and until there is a permanent solution to the problem of nuclear waste. And that's where I gotta stop and say, I disagree. While I can certainly agree with the sentiment of dealing with nuclear waste, for sure, I think that's an issue of technological development, and the door absolutely should be open to nuclear energy, which is zero emission. And all you have to do is say the Green New Deal should allow for investment into dealing with nuclear waste. And I think they actually have a lot of developments in that space already. I'm not one of these engineers or scientists who works on this stuff, but leaving the door, like being mad the door is left open because of nuclear energy, is the wrong mentality. The mentality should be nuclear is an excellent path towards reducing emissions and getting a really high return on energy investment. So what we should do is use the Green New Deal investments to figure out a solution to the nuclear waste problem. Problem solved. She also supports a ban on fracking and ending fossil fuel and nuclear energy subsidies. I disagree with this. I don't think you can just outright ban fracking. I am more, on her side in this capacity. I don't think we should protect the economy at the expense of our environment, but I also recognize, foreign influence and economic interests, and it is really, really complicated. So I don't think you ban it outright, right? I'm more of a moderate on this issue. And I also think ending nuclear energy subsidies is a terrible idea and the complete opposite of what I just said. No, we need to subsidize nuclear energy in the direction of solving the waste problem. Again, I'm not going to act like I'm the expert on the issue, but the solution isn't just shut it down. Nuclear is an excellent path forward, a step we can take in lowering carbon emissions. We need to have that conversation. We need, you know. So if, yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, because I don't want to turn this into a, you know, I don't know, just me being self-critical. But there's a lot of interesting things about the Green New Deal that I think the idea of the Green New Deal that ended up being just fake complete trash. And I think at the end of the day, everything you hear about the Green New Deal is, I'm going to say it, virtue signaling. So, you know, I do try to keep these segments short, so I'm just going to cut it off now. Stick around. Next segment will be coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all there.